So the past week since our last podcast just been kind of hectic and crazy.
Mm.
Uh, there's been a lot of comments made by a lot of athletes, the majority of them being strong, good, encouraging comments. But we saw one from Drew Brees, kind of disrespecting the whole situation there.
Yeah.
I forget what exactly he said, but he just said, "Don't disrespect." Basically, the sum of it is, "Don't disrespect the flag." Kneeling is
Mm.
stupid. That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
So I just want to know what you guys think about that, Jordan.
All right. So for me, it's just ignorant, right? Like it's 2020 by now. If you don't understand what Cap was kneeling, you're just a lost cause at this point. Like it was pretty self-explanatory. He's not disrespecting the flag, and to Drew Brees' point, that flag doesn't mean anything. Like America was built off of slavery. It was built off
Yeah.
of the oppression, the persecution, and discrimination of Black people. So when Black people look at that flag, they don't see, oh man, look at America with their great Christian values. They see a land where they're depressed and oppressed. So like when you're talking about like, oh wow, like that's a great flag, like nobody sees it in that way. And he brought up an argument about his grandfathers being in the war.
Yeah.
There were people in color in the war as well. Did you know that after World War II, those same soldiers were all supposed to get like education, housing, get money after? And only white people got that. The people of color did not get that. Even in Canada, Aboriginals did not get health care after the war. So, like, what does your grandfathers have anything to do with it? This is not your conversation with my grandfather. It's just another guy that is ignorant and doesn't want to have the conversation. So he's using the flag to like cover up racism.
Yeah. Ernie Johnson had a good response to that before Drew Brees did the apology.
Yeah.
Ernie Johnson said, "Not this isn't word for word, but he said, so he as well as Drew Brees have come from a military family. His dad was a Marine and stuff, and when his mom got the flag at his dad's funeral, the one thing that they weren't allowed to do with it was use the flag as a blindfold.
Yeah.
So I just feel like even though we're in Canada stuff,
Yeah. Hey, it still exists though. Like
exactly,
racism still.
right? Like, and it's just stupid. And what Ernie Johnson said there was just really powerful. But I think
like from a person. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
do you think Drew Brees apologized because of do you think he was actually sincere about it, or just did it to protect his image?
I'm gonna be honest. When he apologized, I kind of just laughed at it because like there's no way you change your beliefs in one day. So I think we all know what that's about because the same people that he pissed off are the same people that he's gonna have to throw passes to, right? So like he has to cover himself up. But like to the point of like why should Canadians care that much? Like for me, right, from personal experience, like it may not be as like vicious, but it's more ignorance. It's about like there are a lot of people that believe that racism is like doesn't exist. Like that's like I'm not gonna name any names or anything, but like I had a classmate of mine just flat out say, racism is just like over exaggerated, people just make stuff up. And I'm like, they're part of the problem, right? It's like they don't want to have a conversation. But now after George Floyd's death, they want to like Black Lives Matter, have black fists. And I'm like, where were you a month ago? Let's be real here. If it wasn't COVID-19, there'd be no protests. Like all these white people using these protests, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It's just a reason for them to go outside. So like, I want people to be consistent here. You can't be just changing up your opinion because now you see George Floyd. There's been tons of George Floyds, but like it doesn't get talked about. It happens in Canada. I saw a story of a police officer have his knee on a black man's head in his backyard in front of his kid. But that's not being discussed about. So
I don't know, man. It's just it's the world right now, and people just gotta grow up and just learn that we gotta live together, or else we're just gonna tear this world apart. We're gonna tear society apart. It's just gonna be stupid, right?
I mean, you got to be willing to have these conversations. So like, and my greatest takeaway from this is that it does not matter how much black people you hang out with. If you're white, you just don't understand what it's like to be black. Because this is a guy who spends most of his time around black people. He plays against black people. He's been around black people since high school, since middle school, since he's.
You don't gotta be black to feel it, man. We'll never know what it's like, but
You can
we
have an
can
idea,
feel
but
it
like you're
too.
not gonna
We can have an
you
idea,
might
but
have
we'll
a
never
sense of
know.
it.
What about the teammates?
Yeah,
Drew
so and this
Brees'
guy's talking.
teammates all apologize to him. Like all apologize, all accepted his apology. A bunch of them, like, oh yeah,
Man,
yo, that's my QB, you know,
Yeah.
like
I mean
sincere
they have
apology
to.
from this guy.
I mean they have to. I mean,
I th- I think that was kind of on like behalf of the organization. Like, we can't have, black teammates who were offended by the quarterback. You need to resolve it somehow. But I feel like
yeah.
even like some of the black teammates might not, feel uh that's wrong what he said. And even in his apology, you could kind of like hear it. That was written
Mm,
out, played out. It wasn't from the heart at all. It was kind of fake in a
yeah.
sense. Like
You gotta hold them
his
accountable.
apology,
Like gotta
yeah.
hold them accountable.
Like
Like if you Michael
I,
Thomas and any one of those guys, gotta hold him accountable. You
like
can't have him just apologizing because he's the best player on your team. It doesn't work like that.
It's
yeah.
just crazy how his single comment, like, I'm not saying it didn't exist before because it clearly existed, but it
Oh
just
yeah.
sparked it up and made it even such a bigger factor about all. Even though it's a minority dominated sport, like
Mm,
the white coaches and the white owners, and the fact that the owners
yeah.
don't want black players, and
Mm.
why all the coaches are black, and it's like,
This got me thinking of something. So like a year ago, this Fox News reporter Laura Ingraham told LeBron James and KD to shut up and dribble when they were talking about their
Oh,
political
yes.
ideology. So
yeah, and then
I
she said,
wanted, what's funny? I wanted to hear what she wanted to say about Drew Brees. You know what she said? He's a human. He's
yeah,
allowed to have his opinion.
exactly,
So
That's
it's
so
funny. Like
like,
it's messed up.
but that's like a different level of wrong. Like
yeah, no,
in today's day and age, especially with the George Floyd incident,
Yeah.
we are very like we know that racism is still existing.
yeah,
And to say something like that, he's allowed to have opinion, is kind of like condoning racism and saying, you know what, it's fine. He can say what he wants to say. Like that's not right.
Like she
In
didn't
my
say that
opinion.
about LeBron though. Like again, like Westbrook, like last year, a Jazz fan told him to go down on his knees like he used to. And there are people criticizing Westbrook that he needs to calm down. There's no need for him to get mad. I'm
it's
like, what?
just,
No, I'm like, oh, he gets paid $40 million a year. I don't care how much you get paid. Like this, doesn't matter like that. It's like saying
just because you get
Jackie
paid $40
Robinson.
million doesn't mean you should accept
It's
racism.
like telling Jackie Robinson just to shut up and go hit a baseball. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Like
Nobody's gonna say that though. So
I think like so to say $40 million, like just ignore it. That's kind of like that's not the right thing to do because if you think of like if you were paid for $40 million, would you just let this like verbal onslaught go on to you, or like you gonna do
no,
something about it? I think it's like an unfair thing to say.
because
Forty million dollars,
people don't see like black. A lot of people don't see black athletes as human. There's just property they make money off.
Yeah,
And
Think about it.
it's a sad
it
thing
just
NCAA,
that
shows,
happened.
basketball, football, two make so much money in the colleges based off black athletes. You don't get a single cent.
I
Guys get
know.
hurt. Guys get hurt, and they just say, "Oh, okay, deal with it on their own."
it just shows how messed up the sports world is and how
Yeah,
people truly feel. Like, if anything, it's now that we're seeing people's true colors and we're seeing what people hide behind
yeah,
the door. And it's just,
Who knows? George Floyd's death could change people, but like it has to be a lot more than this. This could be This could be a lot of people's moment, like to realize that this is an actual problem that people have to deal with on a daily basis. So if his death could help enlighten more people and have be willing to open up discussions and trying to understand and doing the research and stuff to
yeah,
realize that this is still a problem to this day, that's a great thing. But like I don't know though, because there's been a lot of George Floyds, a lot of people who've been killed by cops, and it doesn't do anything. You see
yeah.
people just say, "Oh, well, just focus on to the next thing," because people don't want to be uncomfortable. This is the big truth. They don't want to be uncomfortable. If you bring this up, you bring racism or any stuff like that, they don't want to hear it. 'Cause even if they're not racist, they just want to have this conversation.
yeah.
Man, I keep saying this, but it really shows how the world is. And,
It does.
we just got to hope that it gets better, especially during the sports, with
Yeah.
this the mass amount of racism there is towards the players are minority.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just, we just gotta pray about that. Like,
Honest.
it's just a perfect, and it's also a perfect time to get our message out there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
the more and
I
more
feel like
police brutality there is, it shows that we're
Mhm.
getting stronger and how scared they're getting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, we just gotta stay strong during this time, bro, and
Mhm.
Mhm.
stick together and just support each other.
No, I feel like the George Floyd death and the I can't breathe and stuff like that, it will help it a bit. It's like your open casket moment. It's like
Yeah,
close to like in the '60s. There's this kid Emmett Till. He was brutally murdered by two white males, and they didn't get in jail or anything. So the mom had like an open casket funeral just to show that this is a legitimate problem, and that started the civil rights movement. So
Mhm.
if his beating, because there were people that watched him die, and the police officer was smiling. He was like, "I did this. I did
Like
this." Right?
he took pleasure out of that, which
Yeah.
is
He's like,
sick. That's
"I'm the
horrible.
man." You know what? You know what's the worst about this? Those police officers, they got set up for bail. They're not even in jail more.
The same situation happened in the 90s. I think it was 92. Rodney King. Like horrible police brutality, almost
Mhm.
beat to death. The worst thing that they happened, they weren't even laid off. Nothing. All they did was they had to work from home or something with
Yeah.
pay.
suspended with pay.
Yeah, they,
With
they,
Suspended
they
with
get
pay.
paid leave after for
mhm,
emotional distress, so
yeah.
criticism.
But
And
I think like sometimes
yeah,
when police brutality, so police brutality, it always goes on. Uh,
mhm,
you can't really say that there's a moment where it
Mm.
is and a moment where it isn't. But brutal deaths like George Floyd kind of
mhm.
like that's the last straw and kind of like breaks the barrier and it makes people go wild. Like that's not the right thing that should be doing. People need to take action. Why is there
what's
no
the worst
justice?
thing? What's the worst thing for me? Like, I'm sure a lot of black people could feel this way too. Like, his death was numbing because it happened so much. Like, it's just, oh yeah, he died. It's just, to a lot of people who are not aware of it, it's
Yeah.
major important. But for like me, I'm just like, it happens all the time. So it's like, yeah, I'm
Which is the
sad, but
sad
like,
reality of today.
It
Like
just
yeah, it
sucks
is.
that you have to think
that's
of
something
it
that
like,
needs to
oh wow,
change.
another one happened. That's the normal,
Hmm.
Like,
and it
again,
shouldn't
I'm
be.
not gonna, like, a lot of people have watched the footage. I'm gonna be honest with everybody here. I've not watched the footage because I don't want to see it. Like, 'cause, I'm talking to like my 4-year-old and 6-year-old cousin. And I'm being like, damn, in 10, 20 years, that could be George. It could be George Floyd. So like,
Yeah.
it's sad reality. It's
Hmm.
And we just gotta remember, stay together, be strong,
yeah.
man.
Hmm.
And
Gotta open up to these conversations,
yeah,
man. This
man.
is
Yeah. It can't be kind of like put behind the curtains. It needs
Yeah,
to be addressed.
yeah,
yeah. Like, if you're willing to have a conversation about this, then it could help.
and right now, man, no lives matter until Black Lives Matter. It's a fact.
Hmm.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
with that being said, man, peace and love to everyone.
Yeah.
Stay
Yeah.
safe during protests and
All right.
stay strong.